Selling, buying, trading, right here.
ESO lore. A Somerset scroll. Entrivals Recounting.
I've got what you need.
What nightmares! I cannot close my eyes, but see terror in the darkness of dreams. Lurid grotesqueries stalk beyond the rings of my mind's candlelight. Striking when I cannot keep among the waking any longer. I have tried all methods for calming my thoughts. Meditation, hypnosis, honeyberry tea.
Buying,
But the moment
selling,
I slip
trading.
into sleep, I am once more assailed by the terrors that await me there. In a moment of desperation, I turn to my quill. In writing what I see in dream, I hope that I may expel the darkness I see at night. In dream, I sit on gentle shore of Artaeum, where waves from the endless ether lap at sand.
Selling, buying,
The sun
trading,
sits
right
low
here.
and red in the sky, almost mocking me with tranquility. Then from the sea erupts a creature, gigantic, corrupted, with the parasites and spawns of the ocean's races, that makes its way to shore, leaving a foam of crimson in its wake. All the water around it turns black, all the fish die, all the wind and roar is quieted. Its 5 heads rake and bite one another, crying with their dissonant voices. And despite the perverse nodding and rhythm of his heads,
Selling.
the creature still plods forward, sowing destruction as it does. One of the heads is a little more than rotting flesh and bone, and even as it roars, I see the bottom feeders of the ocean depths feasting on his putrid flesh. With this very roar, the dead tremble and dance. Puppets on strings before his unholy power. A second head bore pustules and pock scars. Volvous blisters of fluid that glowed in crimson and sheer. These would burst, oozing their contents into one another, and these horrible concoctions would hiss and sputter, burn and smoke. The others would lap this foul fluid with glee and dismay. A third head was black as night without stars, as onyx in a windowless room,
Buying, selling,
and
trading.
darker still were its eyes, pulling the shadows made lone by the sun into a shroud of pure darkness. The fourth head was obscure to me. I could not discern its features. But the last, the fifth head, so terrible it was to behold, for it was several times the size of the others. By its screeching, only would the others tremble and quell their frightening. This massive head was little more than a ring of teeth, seated upon which was a terrible brain. A loathsome mortal thing, its wrinkles and folds adulating in a sinister, enunciating series of pulses. Strands of ichor and bile seeped from its fleshy recesses, as barnacles and polyps affixed to the surface, seeing want of air. Then the creatures' heads turned their attention to me. I was frozen, am frozen, and will always be frozen by the eyes raking over me. And worse still is the song they sang, in unison, a ruinous cacophony. Kitora and Garza, Pecorhen Semaha, Ulvorcus waits, Kitora and Garza, Pecorhen Semaha. And at the apex of this terrible verse, as the sun gave way to terrible night, I would see the outline on a distant horizon, a mountain forming from the sea and falling into the water. From this peak were more creatures, too many to count and too horrible to name. They're coming for us. And when the sun goes down completely, I wake up screaming. The end. The white knight reads ESO lore. But it's white nightmares. Entrivals Recounting. A Somerset scroll. But it's story time for Glenumbra. Let me quench my thirst with some sunlight trapped in water. Rizzling, Jackson tricks, but it's white wine. Straight from the bottle. Let's chill. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm gonna read this one for the first time. The Crystal of the Tower by Lernatil of Lilandril, Sapiarch of archaeology. Nah. Arcanology. There we go. Taking it from the top. The Crystal Tower rises over northern Somerset, standing as a beacon and a symbol of everything the Aldmer hold dear. Also known as the Crystal-like Law, the Tower, contrary to the beliefs of those who live beyond our cherished borders, is not made of crystal. No, the tower is named for the crystal that resides at the outmost level, transparent law. Transparent law lends power and energy to the crystal tower, which allows the mystical structure to offer its protections to all of Somerset. The energy radiates from the tower, spreading across the land like an invisible awning to keep the island safe and secure. Now, these protections are ancient and were set in place long ago when the crystal was embedded within the tower by the Aldmer who erected it. In truth, for all our knowledge, the Sepiarchs do not fully understand the exact workings of the Tower of the Crystal. We know that the Aldmer constructed the Crystal Tower to preserve the graves of the early Almeri settlers and forever remember the spirits of the elven people and mark the brief moment in history when we were all fully unified. As for the significance of the transparent law, I should think that, to be self-evident, one only has to break down the meaning of the name and all becomes clear. To be transparent is to be easily recognized or detected, to be made manifest, to be open, obvious, and candid. Law, meanwhile, refers to the principles and regulations that govern some specific portion of reality. In this case, the crystal manifests the clear, unequivocal, fundamental principles of our Almer heritage. Indeed, we suspect that the crystal may even be a fragment of divinity given physical substance. Obviously, theories concerning the transparent law and its significance to the Crystal Tower abound within the College of Sepiarchs. I like to believe that the crystal absorbs the drive for perfection that marks the Aldmer and reflects it back, driving away any imperfections that would weaken or endanger the island. Not everyone agrees with me, but I see a correlation between the pride and admiration our people feel for the Crystal Tower and the feeling of security and safety that it, in return, projects across the land. It is a symbiotic relationship where it could just be ancient Almer magic. Who can really say? At the end, He is so lower from the summerset scroll,